Now that we've talked a little bit about performance-based assessment, it gives us the opportunity to discuss designing performance-based assessment. Performance-based assessments must be contextualized. They should be placed in real-world situations. Sounds like it's easier said than done, I think. But anytime we can give the opportunity to students to see what their work will look like in the real world, it will make more sense to them, and it will inspire greater buy-in from the students. What we're really talking about here is the thinking process. That is to say, not just simply the acquisition of knowledge, but the application of knowledge in a new situation. We are attempting to encourage students to use their knowledge, to analyze it. And one thing that is very challenging today is to encourage students to argue against the knowledge that they're being presented with. This is a very delicate task when so many of our subject matters are surrounded by political implications. And when students are given the opportunity to present against, for, and against the knowledge that they're acquiring, they should then be given the opportunity to present that knowledge. Performance-based assessment is seeking an appropriate product or performance. We need to avoid what does not relate to the content. Many students can get lost in the production process over the knowledge process. This is a risk we're going to have to take, though, and certainly many students are more concerned with the beauty and the aesthetics of their product over their content. A very important, even fundamental part of this process of performance-based assessment is to give students the choice. Now, there are many benefits to giving students choice, but there are also deficits. Certainly, students can simply say, I don't know, and throw their hands up in the air and expect us as teachers to come running to the rescue to provide opportunities. And I'm certain that that will happen, and it is part of the process as well. But we need to give students the choice of what resources they're going to use, encouraging them to use appropriate resources, the methods that they'll take when producing their performance, and if we allow them to work collectively, to allow them to choose their own groups. Again, these are all things that create buy-in, that lead to greater production and greater acquisition of knowledge. We encourage teachers, when engaging in performance-based assessment, to engage in interdisciplinary tasks. As we mentioned in our earlier video, there are several subjects that lend themselves quite readily. This can be challenging for us as teachers, however, if we are not well-versed in those subjects. However, it can allow us to get a more holistic view of our students, a more rounded view of our students, if we see the areas in which they're strong. Too often we see our students only through our own lens, and we fail to see their strengths. But by encouraging them, allowing them, and helping them to seek out challenges from across the curriculum, then it will create a better view of them for us. And certainly it should help us collaborate with our colleagues. This type of performance-based assessment certainly promotes collaboration with colleagues. And if our students are working on something that we're not familiar with, it should encourage us, ourselves as teachers, to learn more. When grading or evaluating performance-based assessments, it's important to keep three things in mind. We should always maintain an individual criterion. That is to say, there should be something that each individual within a group, if we have engaged in cooperative grouping with our students, we should allow ourselves to maintain an individual criterion. Certainly, we can assess their level of collaboration within a group, because that is a skills-based assessment. And finally, the third component should allow for peers to assess one another. This type of situation is delicate. It's very complex because there's a lot of things at play. The students' knowledge of their peers, the students' knowledge of themselves, the students' knowledge of their content, and the students' knowledge of the performance-based task. it's certainly not an easy endeavor, but as it gets more complicated, certainly it benefits us as teachers. It helps us as teachers to learn to design quality interdisciplinary assessment. When we're looking at the ways we assess, when we allow students more choice, it promotes a reflection on our teaching craft. It allows us to encourage students to develop more complex performances, and it promotes collaboration. And the students need to justify themselves to themselves, within their groups, to each other. I think all of this will improve our organization, our focus, and the outcomes we're seeking for ourselves as professionals and for our students as learners.